As sad as it is to admit, this is actually one of the few times you're going to be able to say this about an isekai anime. The MC, within probably 30 seconds of slavery being brought up as an option, says, "I'm good, boss. I'm not into that. It doesn't sit right with me." I'm actually one of the people who doesn't really sit on either side of the debate of whether it's okay or not. I'm more of the middle where, like, I get when stories do it because it is a different world. But yeah, put in these situations, I would absolutely push back against it just because, it's not a. For me, it's like I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. So it's actually refreshing to have a character just say, "No, I'm good." Now, before people like to smash on their keyboard, well, isn't he technically about to get a slave at the end of the episode? It's really hard to say. Because one, that does not look like a normal slave house if you ask me. Maybe it's only for like the rich slaves, like, hey, if you really want the fancy ones, you gotta pay extra money. I assume it's gonna be some sort of partnership or immediately they get bought and freed and there's gonna be some stipulation that they're so loyal that they would never speak out. I don't know. But either way, I respect the MC's hustle, man. He's even before that moment, the entirety of this episode just made you think he's a good dude. Like, let me ask you, when's the last time you've watched one of these shows where MC gets dropped into the middle of nowhere, group of peasants basically help him get him back on his feet, and when he decides to leave off on his next adventure, what does he do to help make sure they're secure? Usually nothing. What does he do? Builds some giant walls and fixes their general equipment, just says, "Hey, I'm not going to be around and I want to make sure you're safe." Where the hell has this dude been as an MC? Because he's one of the best. Anyway, you know me. I do have full live reactions if you want to support my work. I got it exclusively over on Patreon. If you want to see my full and good thought to any of these episodes, it's going to be over there exclusively. So, I unironically mean this. Really damn good isekai so far. Honestly, I wasn't expecting. I said it last week, either my taste is getting trashier or isekai are getting better. I mean, I can look at a show like from yesterday as an example. It's not an isekai, it's just a straight up fantasy, but Bogus Skill, like, that's the type of enjoyable trash I'm talking about. This is just actually legitimately good. It's got humor, it's got flair, and while in a perfect world this would have better production because it's really not that well produced. Like, there's elements of charm. Like, it is a charming show, especially when it comes to Maple, the little spider companion. It's very adorable what they do with her. But in general, is this show revolutionary visuals? No, and it probably deserves better than it got. But it does its job, and it just oozes style and substance. This is something that's really going to go undervalued, but the idea of an MC who legitimately fortified a village's walls, and it also looked like he helped with their general plumbing. Because at one point it focuses in on him, like, crank for the water to come out. It looks like he did stuff there too. It just, in general, it looks like he hooked them up because who knows if he'll ever be back. But it's like a little thing. But they aren't protected by, like, the general walls of a city. Like, they are animals, bandits, who knows what else. And the idea of actually giving them walls, it seems so small on paper, but put yourself in their shoes, you probably just saved their life at some point, or their kids' lives in the future. Who the hell knows? Such a little detail, but it really flexes who he is as a person. And in a way, this show probably should have had a different name. I know we like to clown on very long anime names or light novel names, but it's a proven fact in, like, the light novel industry that the longer the name and the more descriptive a name, the more it will sell, because people will get a synopsis just off of the, reading the name. And possibly the greatest alchemist of all time, it probably should have been called, like, Reborn in Another World, I Now Modernize General Way of Life. It should have been something like that, because that's actually what he's doing, and it's way more interesting and would have hooked me in right away. Like, there's a reason why something like, Headhunted in Another World, from salaryman to, general of a demon army, whatever that show's called in full. Stuff like that gets you interested. You're like, oh, okay, there's something different going on here. I'm isekai trash enough that I was willing to give this one a shot because it was a Wednesday watch. But a lot of people probably are looking at this as being the most generic show of the season, but they're actually doing some really cool shit. So, obviously, he has a bunch of skills that allows him to do some pretty crazy things. At first, it starts off with him, making a shit ton of potions and getting, like, the equivalent of 7 million yen or something like that. He's now able to rent out a giant-ass mansion that looks like it was pulled straight from Ancient Magus Bride, and he makes a toilet. So, as he's walking through, like, the market square, he's like, oh shit, what's that smell? oh yeah, that's how they, handle the sewage, so to speak. And the idea that immediately my brain goes, oh, clearly this is going to be a show where he's going to revolutionize the world. And there's been certain shows like An Ascendance of a Bookworm, Reincarnated as a Slime, certain shows like those that do go the route of adding that modernization, these modern ideas into a world that would never think of it, or at least wouldn't do it for thousands of years, hundreds of years, however long it may be. And the idea that at first he goes the route and he makes himself a toilet for his home, right? And of course, the dude in question who hooked him up with all this is like, can you get me 50 to 100? But we also learned earlier in the episode that light magic is like probably 3 people in this world can use it. So yeah, if you kind of expose that you're a craftsman who used light magic, it's very possible that you could get eyes on you that may not be good. And they definitely drop something infuriating when they talk about how nobility would look at it, because could you imagine nobility if they realized a peasant, a commoner, used a toilet that is infused by light magic, the magic of the god? Do you think God would want a lowly... Oh my god, I just wanted to smack whatever rich bastard probably thinks that in this world, because you know there's going to be hundreds of them. But there's a lot of little building blocks at play, and then yeah, they top it all off with the slave thing. Immediately I like how he like pushes back, and then he's like makes it explicitly clear, like, I don't feel comfortable, that shit ain't up my alley, that's not in my vocabulary. I assume it's going to be a partnership, and if they go the route of it being a slave, I assume this man's gonna refuse to treat her as one. Like, I just assume that has to be what it is, because someone, based on what we've seen of his character, even if he's like pretty much forced because, okay, the only way this will work is if we have a slave contract, because that's the only way to guarantee shit doesn't get exposed, he's probably just gonna be like, I refuse to make you do anything against your will. Like, that has to be the direction we're going just based on his character. I would be shocked otherwise. But either way, very, very likable MC. And honestly, he looked like one of the most generic looking MCs of the season, and so far is actually incredibly lovable if you ask me. And then you add in Maple, who's just an adorable... He carries Maple around in a knapsack, man. It is freaking... It's so cute. And honestly, just the fact that... I mean, he's going to get into the bed making business based on the way Maple attacked the one dude and strung him up. Yeah, he's totally going to get into the bed making business, because apparently Spider Silk is comfy as hell. I don't know, this show doesn't look like much on paper, but this Isekai turned out way better than I think any of us thought. You let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of episode 2? I thought it was like 3 or 4 times better than the first episode, and I already liked the first episode, so that's saying a lot. Your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we got those full and cut live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Antonio, N.A., Tony Keats, Ivan Bonder, Alvario, and we also have No Void. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.